Buddy. Uh-oh. Are there people here? Yes, there are. Okay. Oh my gosh. I thought I had it set to go this way, and so I was really nervous, but it looks like we're good. So, whew. Oh, there's always that just like brief panic when you're like, are things working? But here we are. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to day 2 of our watercolor event. I'm so excited to be here with you, and I am super excited to share the cards that I created based on our projects from last night. I think that you're going to love them. Also, I hope that you are looking forward to another evening of some fun and relaxing watercoloring. We're going to do a little bit of work in our sketchbook. We're going to do some color mixing, and we're going to use one of our stencils. So I'm looking forward to that. We've got some great projects to make, including 2 cards. So that is going to be really fun. I see Sandy has a question that says, do I ever coordinate my paints with Stampin' Up colors? Yes, actually, several of the colors I chose are because they coordinate with Stampin' Up colors. That's especially true in the Watercolor Week palette, the one that's got this one that's got the pastels and the other colors. I think if you look at it, you can see many colors coordinate, like Petal Pink, Bubble Bath, Lemon Lime Twist. With the right amount of water, Soft Sea Foam, Summer Splash, and Coastal Cabana, Shy Shamrock. Vermilion can go with, if you warm it up a little bit, it can go with Timid Tiger. Payne's Gray is very much like our Secret Sea. So yeah, there's a ton of colors that do coordinate. They're not exact matches, so you might have to add water to some of them, or like I said, warm up vermilion. To warm up a color, you would add yellow typically. So it just kind of depends a little bit, but yes, they are definitely geared towards that. Not exactly, but for sure, there's lots of crossovers. Make sure to hop on and say who you are. I forgot to mention this last night. I have prizes. Did I tell you that? Prizes. Here's how you get entered. You got to be registered. So I will be doing some drawings coming up, probably more towards the end of the week, just to give people time to register and get entered. But I do have some fun watercolor goodies to give away, and I would love to send a gift to you. So just to be entered, all you need to do is be registered for this event. There is a free option, there is a PDF option, and there is also a box of supplies option. I'm getting a little bit low on boxes of supplies, so if you would like one, I've got, I think, 12 of them left, 10 or 12 of them left. So the registration will cut off when they're sold out, but I'm excited to give away some prizes too. So I've got a few things. So one of the things I have is a set of my starry colors, which I guess I don't have on my table. I showed this last night, I think, but it's these colors. You'll of course get a new one, not my well-loved one. So yeah. There you go. All right. Another thing is the PDF. I actually have a bonus. Well, I've got a few videos that I'm going to put in, but I have a really fun bonus video that actually I'm going to put in based on a suggestion from my sister. So I'm making this for you, my sister, Lisa. And I hope you're going to like it, which means you should register, Lisa, because then I will send you the PDF. Um, and let's see. Oh, Robin, thank you. She says, get the box. You won't regret it, or you will regret it later if you don't. Thank you. I would agree. The other thing, I don't think I really talked too much about this last night, but I also have a 30-day painting challenge. There's no rules for this, but it's definitely geared to help you kind of develop a practice of watercolor. And by the way, it's not 30 days where you're sitting watercoloring for like an hour or two. It can be as little as like 2 or 3 minutes, literally. It's just taking some time out of your day to relax and enjoy the process. Speaking of that, I am looking forward to sharing a couple of just really easy, relaxing things that you can do in your sketchbook or on scraps of paper so that you can create projects. Also, we have a little visitor right here. Come here. Come here. Oh, good girl. This is Izzy. Can you say hi to the ladies? Yes, you just want the loves. So Izzy came to say hi to me. And her neck is wet, which makes me think she and Milo have been wrestling. So now I'm going to be covered in your hair. Yes, I know you don't care. So anyway, where's your brother? Is he up to no good? I suspect so. Or do you have a happy tail? All right, so I think it is time to turn the camera around and start painting. What do you say? Should we paint? Should we paint? Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to set you down. Usually she gives up much before I'm done. Okay. Also note the hearts. All right. Oh my gosh. Izzy got big. She's been kind of the same. Milo is the one who got he's gotten pretty big. He is bigger than Izzy. He's definitely taller. And longer and more, his head is bigger. So she's got really poofy hair, and Milo's hair is not as poofy as hers, and I'm not sure why. Also, it was Milo's birthday. Was it yesterday? What's today? The 10th. It was yesterday. And you want to know how I know? Our vet sent an email. I'm sure that's like automated, but my husband and I are like, oh, huh. Obviously, we celebrated and partied hard. So anyway, he turned 3, which I said, well, he's no longer a puppy. And my husband looked at me and he was like, mm-hmm. So anyway, all right, I'm going to flip my camera and we are going to start painting. All right. Let's make sure. Oh no, our thing is all messed up. So let me fix this. Sorry about that. Oh, let's see here. There we go. Okay. Sorry, it took a little bit. All right. There's a little paper bag in your box of supplies that has this stencil in it. It actually has 3 parts. And this is actually, sorry. This is actually a design that I had my husband do after we'd already planned the stencils for this event, but I decided it was so awesome, so we were able to make them for the box, which was really handy. And these will be available for purchase too, so it's really going to be one of those ones that I think you'll use a lot. And we're going to use it for color mixing. So have this handy if you are painting along with me. We're going to start with a warm-up exercise, though, because I always think that is a good idea. By the way, remember we did some color swatches last night before we did our little heart painting, this one, and this one. I put those swatches in here as color combinations so that I can refer back to this. And whenever I have a color combination that I like, or even just a color combination I want to try out, I can keep it in my scrapbook or my sketchbook here so that I can refer back to it later on. I also wanted to put gold as one of the colors because Doesn't that complete the whole project? I love me some gold. Okay, so as mentioned, let's do a little warm-up exercise. And there's so many different things you can do, but I want to warm up on this one because it's going to be the basis of two of the projects we're going to do tonight. So we're going to make 2 cards this evening, or at least start them and complete them for tomorrow. So I want to take and just paint. Warm-up exercises are really great to do with like leftover paint in your palette. So you can see I did not clean out my heart. I can just continue to reuse this and enjoy the colors that I started with yesterday, and we can just come back to this. So what I want to do is, I want to start by practicing some lines. And one of my favorite things to do, you've seen this before if you've taken any of my classes, is I'm going to start, I've got my medium-sized brush in my set, and I'm going to start with a really light touch, and then I'm going to press down, and then I'm going to lift back up. And you can just kind of keep doing these in a row, like so. And this is a great way to kind of get a feel for how much paint comes out, how much pressure you need, how much, what it will look like on your page. And then I'm also, you can see I'm turning my thing here a little bit, but what I want to do is scrape off some of that extra paint. And I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to get as close to my last row as I can, and then keep going and pressing and lifting and pressing and lifting. And the idea is that they kind of fit together. Now that's not perfect, so I can fill this in as necessary. And when I look at this, I can see this is a good amount of water. There's no pooling. If I were to tip this, nothing's going to move. That's a good amount of water. Let's take a look at what too much water looks like. So I just added a little water to my brush. I can see it's pretty shiny and wet looking. And so I'm going to do the same thing. And luckily this runs out of water relatively quickly, but I'm trying to get more in there. And this time, if I tip this, I can see my paint is moving. That means I have too much paint. Typically, we don't want that much paint on our brush. So in an effort to get rid of some of that paint, I like to have like a paper towel handy so I can just dab off extra. All right, so let's try again. I can look at my bristles. There's not like a drip at the end of this, so that's good. I'm just going to scrape a little off on my heart dish and then try this again. And looking pretty good. Whenever you get kind of jagged lines, that means you're running out of water and pigment on your brush, so you can come back in and fill those in. But that's just an indication that you might need to reload. This brush, this type of brush does just simply not carry that much water in it. The bristles just can't hold a ton of water. There are some brushes that can. Now, one of the videos that I'm going to share as a bonus video is all about supplies, brushes, papers, paints, and kind of explaining to you what the differences are of all of those things in pretty good detail. So that will be helpful, I think. Okay. Next, let's do another row of these. And the reason I like this is because I really can get a feel for what my brush will do. And, you know, I do this constantly. So I don't just pick up a brush and start painting. I always do a little something to warm up my hands and my paint and my brush, just so I get a feel for what it's going to look like when I paint with it. Because you have more than one brush, so things are going to change, and it's going to be nice to get a feel before you start trying to paint something that you know want to do something with, like a card or a frame frameable piece or something. Okay, so that looks pretty good so far. Now you can do these with different colors. I've done all kinds of different things. Another fun thing to do to kind of help get yourself going, and sometimes I find it's helpful to just draw a little circle on the page. Okay, so I'm just going to literally draw a little circle like that. It's maybe not quite a quarter of an inch, or maybe it is a quarter of an inch, doesn't matter. Anyway, what I'm going to use that for is just a circle so that I can start doing little curved brush strokes. So it's exactly what I was doing over here, but it's curved. Okay, so curving, and I'm going around the circle. And I'm just going to keep going around the circle with curved brush strokes. And you can turn your paper if you need to. You can see I'm kind of working my hand around in all directions. But what's nice about this exercise is it gets your hand moving all the way around and gives you a feel for what your brush strokes are going to feel like in different positions on your paper, so that you don't constantly have to turn your paper. But if you're more comfortable turning it, you go right ahead. There's no rules to this. And you can see I touched a little bit there. But what this is looking like, if you can't see it already, is a rose. So this is kind of, I think, one of the easier flowers to paint. And it also helps me start moving my hand and getting my wrist accustomed to moving in different directions. I'm going to pull that camera up just a hair. And you can go in all directions with this too. Now, just like before, if we have too much water on our brush, it can dry funny or not look so hot. And so this is a great way to get a feel for whether or not you've got the right amount of water on your brush and make something that's not boring. All right. And you can change color. So what if I kind of moved into the next color and I mixed it in, and now I have a little bit of pink added to this. You might not see the difference because it's pretty small at this point on my page, but it's going to start showing up. And I love the color, by the way. It is Opus with a little bit of vermilion, and it's a lovely pinky coral color. Oh, that's looking fantastic. And so you can just kind of keep doing this. And then we'll talk about making flowers in a little bit. But another thing I want to mention is these strokes are the basis for petals of flowers and leaves. So if I wanted to do a leaf, I'm going to go into my other palette where there's some sap green, which is like the best green. And so I'm going to do the same stroke again that I was just doing. Instead of curving it, I'm doing it straight. And oh, I have a leaf. Another stroke I can do is 2 of these together. So there's 1 and 2. And now I have a thicker leaf. So these are great ways to just practice getting comfortable with your brush and how much paint you need on your brush to get a lovely brush stroke. So this is the kind of thing I love practicing in my sketchbook because it helps me see how I progress. So you're gonna come back and look at this and say, whoa, that was rough. Especially if you're just starting out. And then you're going to do this in a few days and you're going to be like, wow, I'm getting better. You will definitely see the progression as you go. So this is an exercise I continue to do over and over and over and again, year after year, day after day, month after month. I don't do it every day, but it's a great way to get yourself warmed up. All right, so we said we were going to do some color mixing, so let's take a look at that. I want to do this in my sketchbook. So I'm going to hit this with a little heat to dry it off. Because as it turns out, half of watercoloring is waiting for stuff to dry. I often work out of multiple sketchbooks at once so that I can so that I can wait for things to dry and then keep going. All right, I'm going to skip a page just because I maybe want some more time for color combinations. So I'll leave a blank page and then I'm going to come in with this. So I mentioned this stencil. So I developed this stencil. I have a color mixing wheel in my stencil store. I have a whole store of stencils you can purchase that go with watercoloring. We'll talk more about them coming up, but this one is a little bit smaller design, and what I love about it is there's not quite as many sections as my other one. So let me show you how to use this. It's very simple. You're going to need a pencil. I like to use like an actual drawing pencil. This is called a 6H. H stands for hardness of the lead, and a 6, 7, or 8 or more are very, very hard leads, which means they're going to give you a real light, faint line, which is kind of what I want. So I've got the 3 stencils together. They fit just like a puzzle, and I'm going to do the inner circle. Okay, then I'm going to remove this stencil. By the way, these little sections mean nothing. They look like a film strip or something, but they're nothing. Don't worry about them. They're just braces to keep the divisions equal. Okay, so then I did the next one, and I'm going to remove this piece as well. And then I'm going to draw this circle. Try not to bump my fingers. Then what I'm going to do is put a dot in each of these little holes around the edge. And if you don't have a fancy drawing pencil like this, you can just use a number 2 pencil or a mechanical pencil, whatever you have. Any kind of pencil is great. This just gives you a lighter line. Okay, now you can see there's these little dots around the edge. What I'm going to do with those dots is connect them with my ruler. So I like to put my pencil on the dot, press my ruler up against it, and then connect it to the opposing line. Then I'm going to move over one and do this and do this. Now the reason I wanted something like this is because it is actually perfect for color mixing, but it's actually difficult to do this free-handed and get nice even sections. And pardon me, I can't see if my thing is lined up because my camera's in the way. Okay. And you can extend the line a little beyond the outermost circle that we drew. It doesn't matter. It's nothing. This is just sketchbook practice. Actually, I kind of like the lines. They kind of look drafty, you know, like a engineer's draft table or whatever. Okay, and I've got this little extra line I'm going to erase. Okay, so there we have a lovely little circle divided into 12 equal spots. Remember we talked about the color wheel. We're going to actually make a color wheel tonight, and I'm going to do 3 colors. And this time I'm going to pick this palette just because I know many of you have this one. This is the palette we used during Watercolor Week last week. And I wanted to mention that I did post the color names in the Facebook group earlier today. So you can check that out. It, of course, will all be in the PDF as well. All right, so I'm going to choose 3 colors out of here to do my color wheel. I'm going to do this permanent yellow deep. I'm going to do quinacridone magenta, and then I'm going to do cobalt blue. Okay, so those 3 colors, and those are very much primary colors that the kind of colors you learned in school. But instead of magenta, or I'm sorry, instead of red, which we've typically learned, we're going to do the magenta. And the difference is that the modern colors, so I like to put a little swatch just to remind myself which ones I chose. And then I'll, of course, label all of this. The modern colors that we use today, didn't exist in classical times, you know, like way back when. These colors are generally speaking synthetically made, and so they are different than, say, your traditional yellow, your traditional red, and your traditional blue. When you mix those traditional colors, you get very flat, boring mixtures. But when you use these brighter colors, these are the types of colors that like printing of magazines and that kind of color printing uses. And so they create much more vibrant results. Okay, this, by the way, is a little bit of a lengthy process, so I probably am only going to mix 2 of the colors, and then I'll come back and do the whole thing because it does take a hot minute to do. But here's how we're going to start. We're going to take each of our 3 colors and put one in a section, and then do the next one in a section, but we're going to skip 3 spots and then move on. And what we're doing is we're using our primary color in those 3 spots. Then the next spot is going to represent a tertiary color, a secondary color, a tertiary color, and a primary color. So I'll make more sense in just a minute. Now, I'm almost positive y'all have seen this before in probably elementary school. So this could be a hot minute for many of you. So over here, we'll put magenta. But what I love about this is it's really fun and easy to mix all kinds of new colors from our palette. Now, some of these colors we will have on our palette already, and we call them convenience colors. For instance, green. As you probably know from elementary school, yellow plus blue gives you green, right? But if you are painting a lot of flowers, it gets tiring to mix green constantly. So it's really handy to have a convenience color of green available to have on your palette so that you're not constantly mixing it. Are the colors I picked, are they warm colors? For this exercise, Mary? They are, well, the yellow is definitely a warm yellow. And we're not getting that complicated. The red is probably considered a cool red, and the blue, I think, is pretty cool. There is something called well, there's a color wheel you can do with warm and cool colors. And believe it or not, like you would normally think of blue as a cool color, but there can be a warm color of blue. There can also be a cool color of yellow. So it also affects the vibrancy and colors that you can get, and gives you even a bigger variety. Okay, so let's since we were talking about green as our example, I'm going to mix those 2 colors together and get a green color. I'm going to bring in a mixing palette. This is actually something my husband created for me, and it is stained, but it's clean. If it turns out, oh, I'm picking up the wrong color. That's okay. We'll just throw some over there. It turns out that when you mix colors, even a little bit of the wrong color can definitely contaminate the outcome of color mixing. So you want to really make sure you have a clean space that you're working on, which is why I'm not working in the heart right now, because that is definitely not clean. Okay, so in here, by the way, the reason I had my husband make this is it's got 36 slots, and so that gives you a lot of room to do a lot of color mixing. Okay, so I'm cleaning off my brush really, really well, and then I am going to go into my next color. Now, one thing about color mixing is water control really makes a difference here, because if you're pulling in color and you've got too much water, especially if it's not even. So like if I have a really watery blue and a very strong yellow, that's definitely going to change how things look. So you want to have things roughly equal. I would say don't stress about it. It's hard to have things definitely equal in this exercise, but you can do your best. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of this blue and put it into my yellow. And then you can see I get a green shade. All right. And whenever I do something like this, I like to have a little scrap of watercolor paper to test with. And so like here's just a scrap piece of watercolor paper. So I'm just going to test that. And that looks pretty good to me. That looks a fairly good mixture of the two of those colors. But if I'm not sure, I can add a little bit more blue to the mix and see. Oh, I think that's definitely too far. That looks more blue. All right, so I went too far. And this is, by the way, just like a process. So if you're not sure what you should get, just go for it. Okay, so I'm kind of going for a nice even mixture. The ideal is that it's half yellow, half green. But in reality, it's very difficult to get that because there's all kinds of different factors that play into this. How much water you have, how much pigment, whether one pigment is a much stronger or more staining color. Often yellow, you need way more of yellow than whatever color you're mixing it with because yellow can often be weak because it's such a light color. So there you go. But that looks pretty good for our green. Now what I want to do is take this color and add some water to it. So it doesn't matter how much water you do as long as you're consistent with all of them. So I'm going to put, I dipped my brush in water. I'm going to mix that in. I'm going to scrape my brush off on the edge of this well. I'm going to dip it in my water once again. And it's going to go in here. So basically I did 2 brushfuls of water. And now what I'm going to do is paint this next section. And you want to be a little careful because, again, we learned last night if colors touch, they can bleed within one another. But if the edge is dry, you should be okay. And there's our second little swatch. I'm going to do exactly what I just did again. I'm going to dip my brush in my water, and I'm going to pick up 1 and 2 brush loads of water and mix it completely in to my little well here. And you can see again why those little wells are handy. And then I'm going to paint what's remaining in that little circle. Again, I want to be a little careful so that things don't bleed too much, but we've got a nice light section. So that's my full strength color. 1 kind of level down in value or how intense it is, and then 2 levels down. All right, let's repeat that process for our green, or I'm sorry, my blue paint. So I'm picking up and doing some blue. You can see this is mostly paint. There's not a lot of water here, so that's going to be pretty much what it is there. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go 1 dropper full and mix it in, scrape off the edge, and 2, whoops, and mix it in. Okay, now I just got a big old drip on my paper. The day is not lost. Just dab it up with your paper towel and you're good to go. Another really good reason to keep paper towel handy. All right, so I'm going to paint this little section in. And as you can see, my blue had a pretty good amount of time to dry, so I'm not worried about bleeding. It can occur still, but it's far less likely to occur when the first section is dry. And if you need to, you can hit it with your heat tool. So we can do this real quick before we go on to the next color, or at least just at the very bottom, you know, wherever it's going to touch. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. And this time I'm going to move my paint over here, and I'm going to do 1, 2, mix it up, and then paint that little section again. And I've got a lot of water on my brush, so I'm just dripping off a little into my paper towel. And there we go. Now, sometimes these are going to be really different. Sometimes they're going to be similar in value. It just kind of depends on the color. But this is such a good exercise for learning how much water you have on your brush, how much pigment you have on your brush, etc. Okay, now to do these two sections, we want to take basically what we had here, and this section is going to have more blue added to it. This section is going to be this color with more yellow in it. All right, so let's do that again. One more time, I'm going to start with my blue paint, scrape off my brush, clean it off in my water. Dolly said, can you get the mixing palette from me? The answer is yes. It, I believe, is in my stencil store, but if it's not, I will get it in there. Okay, so I'm going to mix in my green, and I can already see this definitely has much more of a blue shade to it than my first green is that we did. And then I'm going to bring it back to my swatch, and this is really helpful to have. Yes, it's definitely more blue, so let's go with this into this section. Yes, Deirdre, that is just fine. By the way, in my stencil store, you can buy 4 stencils and the 5th is free. Unless you're in Stencil Club, and then you can buy 3 and the 4th is free. I'll talk more about Stencil Club later. Okay, so, oh, look at that. This is a blue-green, and this is green. Now let's make yellow-green for over here. So, one more time, I'm going to grab some blue paint from my palette, put it over here, scrape off the edge, rinse, rinse, rinse. Pick up some yellow, mix it in here, and I can see I've definitely got a blue-green. So let's rinse off our brush really good, dry it off a little bit, and then pick up some more yellow. The reason I dry my brush off is I don't want to bring in a lot of water with my yellow pigment. Otherwise, it'll get really watery and soupy. We're going to get it watery eventually, but we want to start off with a little bit. Now, I feel like I added to this, but yet the color didn't change a whole lot. A little maybe, but not a whole lot. So in this case, what I'm going to do is pick up just a little bit from here, put it in the next well, because otherwise I could be adding yellow to this until the cows come home, because yellow is much less strong than the blue. So what I want to do is make sure that I'm not wasting my paint. Okay, so I have a little bit of this paint in here. Now I should be able to add yellow and see more change happen. Okay, and that is exactly what happened. So you can see that was a much bigger change, and you'll really see it when I go on my scrap there. Look at that. Okay, so that looks like a good yellow green. All right. And we could even probably go lighter, but I'm going to stick with this because I'm fairly committed at this point. Okay, and now I've given the green a little bit of time to dry. So this whole wedge should be dry by now, which means I can do the lighter values of the other two here pretty well. So again, we did 1 dropperful, put it in there, 2 dropperfuls, mix it in really good. And I still scrape off the edge a little bit so that I don't have tons of water on here. And then I'm going to paint that down. Now that lightened up quite a bit. So my second value might not be that much different, but We'll see. Okay. Is there a reason why I did all 3 of the original blue but didn't do the same with the yellow? No, not really. No. I mean, no. Well, no. How do you like that answer? Okay, so now I'm going to put 1, 2 drops in here, and I will end up with a very light inner ring like that. And then we'll repeat the process with our blue-green, which I believe was actually this one. So, oops, I put 1. I need 1 more. Okay, da-da-da. And what I think is interesting about this is sometimes the colors really look a little bit different as they get lighter. Like you might see the blue or the green or the yellow really kind of show up more, depending on the mixes that you're doing. Okay, and then I'm going to put 1, 2 more drops of water in here. And paint. I like using the same method for each, meaning I'm using the same brush and the same amount of water for each time. Okay, and then last but not least, let's come back to our yellow. It's kind of dry here, but we can still get the same effect. So I put 2 droppers or 2 paintbrushes full of water, and then we'll paint that. So the idea is if you kind of skip around a little bit, that gives things time to dry. And then it will paint easier for you. Okay, then 1, 2, and that one kind of spilled over, so we'll try and push it back in, give it a swirl, and paint this section right here. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to stop there. Otherwise, I mean, we could do this all night, to be honest. So I will paint the remainder of this so you can see what it looks like. But let me show you a couple others. And this is such a fun activity to do. If you are ever like, what do I paint? I love doing this because it is so fun to see what can happen, what kind of colors you can get out of your palette. So let me grab my other sketchbook. And I did kind of an interesting one this weekend, a couple of them. Okay, so here's one from my Fall in Love with Watercolor palette. I did Soul Shine, Carmine, and Viridian. So this is not a typical, I've got a yellow and I've got a red, but this yellow is almost orange. And my red, and then and I didn't have a blue, I had a bluish green. So what's interesting about this is when I was mixing these, I was getting some more neutral colors. This one is like grayish, dark gray. So that's a neutral color. And that was Viridian plus Carmine, which was interesting. Anyway, I really enjoyed seeing the colors that came out of this. It was a very fun little exercise. I think I've got another one in here. I thought I had another one in here. Oh, maybe it's in my other sketchbook. Hold on. I've got, like I said, I work in a lot of sketchbooks because it takes time for these to dry. Here we go. This one is Soul Shine, Peacock Green, which is a blue color, and Opus. And this gives you your full rainbow of colors. And isn't that pretty? So this is a really fun one as well. And I highly recommend doing this one on your own. I wanted to let you guys do this rainbowy one. This is a rainbow one too, but this one I really, really like. So this will just give you another example. And I think I've got one more in here, if I'm not mistaken. And then we're going to do one more color mixing exercise. Also love this one. Oh, for goodness sakes. I thought I had another one in here. Oh, I do. Goodness. Here we are. Okay. This one is another kind of different one. This was Vermilion, magenta rose, and peacock green. So you can see once again, these are very interesting colors. And we've got neutrals. I made some brown and some really dark brown. So I think this whole process is really fun, and I love doing this. Now, when you're done with this process, you've got a palette full of paint, right? So you can let it dry, of course, and reuse it. But what I like to do is do something on the opposing page in my sketchbook. So you can see here, I painted that one, and then I did this. I taped off the edges, and if you've never taped off edges, don't worry, because we're going to do it here in a minute. But I taped off the edges, and I just painted tons of hearts. I let them dry. I painted more hearts over the top, and then I painted some gold hearts. I didn't really like how this turned out. I literally wrote that. Didn't turn out like I hoped, but oh well. And then a sad face. I told you last night I have sad faces in my sketchbooks. I wasn't kidding. But let me show you one that I did like. That would be in the same sketchbook. So I did this one, and then this is the leftover paint. I just did some swirls and had fun. It was just relaxing, and I liked seeing what the colors look like. Of course, at this point, you know, I've watered them all down, so that's why they look so light. They're not as intense as the originals, but you can see it's just a fun activity to do in the opposing page. So there you go. Okay. So that was a fun one. Let's use this same stencil in a little bit different way. Okay, and before I do that, because I said I would do the rest of this, I want to write down the colors I used. So this is permanent yellow deep, right? Yeah. Quin magenta and cobalt. That way I know what colors I used, and when I go to finish it, I can do that. Okay. So this is dry enough. I can turn my page. So I'm going to pull my stencils back out again. And what I want to do this time is, where's my third one? Here we go. This time I want to do my circle kind of like we did before, but I don't need the sections, quite as many sections. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the smallest circle. I'm going to remove this, and then I'm going to remove that, and then I'm going to draw the outer circle. And I got to hold it in place. And if you struggle to do this, you can tape it. That's fine. Just use a piece of Scotch tape, literally, and hold it in place so you don't have to worry about moving. Okay, now I'm going to do my dots once again, and I'm going to connect them like I did in the last one. But this time, I'm going to end up with a donut of wedges. Okay, so let's connect these real quick. And by the way, you don't have to go through the center because we don't actually want that. I always forget that in the first line that I do every time, like literally every single time. I don't know what it is. And I'm even like, don't do it, Dina. And then zoom. I don't know. There's something so gratified about connecting these dots, I think. And so it always kind of cracks me up when I do it. Oh, and I kind of went too far with that one. But again, it's in our sketchbook, so who cares? Now, this is a slightly different method of doing color mixing. What I like about this is it gives you what I like to call a uniform palette of colors. Okay, so I've got my sections. And what I want to do this time, I'm going to switch back to my other palette. What I want to do is choose a color on here, and then I'm going to mix several other colors with it. I've got 12 sections, so I can't do all of the colors, but I can do quite a few of them. So I think the color that I'm going to choose is actually going to be kind of a different one, and that is this shell pink. So what I want to do is take 12 sections and use shell pink. I'm going to take, because I've got kind of a bigger chunk right here, I'm going to move up to my larger brush. By the way, color mixing is very water. You use a lot of water, and you really want clean water for when you do this. So I'm actually going to switch to a clean jar. But what I'm going to do is take and create 12 wells of my shell pink. And I want to have a similar amount of pigment in each one of these, which you might think sounds easy, but sometimes it's tricky to do. So that first one was a little watery. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'm going to add some more water to this and swirl it up a bunch. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and that is roughly the same amount in each one. Okay. Teacher said, when you say lighter, do you mean adding more yellow or more water? Water. When I say lighter, I always mean water. If I meant more yellow or any color, I would tell you the color that I meant. Yeah, lighter always means more water. Okay. So I've got my 12 sections, and now I want to choose 12 colors to mix in with this shell pink. I'm going to go kind of down the row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will leave one section just with that plain color. So I've got 6. I think I'll just do the top 2 rows with this because these are similar colors and I think they'll look good. All right, so what I'm going to do is, first off, I'm going to spritz this with my spritzer, which is right here, I think. Yes. I always like making sure this is water and not rubbing alcohol because that's a whole nother situation. Okay. So, if there's no more room on your palette, that's okay. You know what you can do is if you've got a background stamp. I like my mixing wells, but in a pinch, something like this can work, and you're just going to do little sections on here. You got to be careful because sometimes the water can run between them, but that can work too if you're running out of space. Okay, so let's start by painting our first color because I just spritzed those. We'll give them just a second to get going. And actually, I'm going to pick up that one because that's where it sits on my palette, and that'll just make it easier for me to remember. Okay, so I'm just going to paint in this section. Now, as I'm painting this in, I can see that I'm getting a lot of dry brush lines. That tells me I need a little bit more water in here. So I'm just going to touch my, like half of my brush in the water and then add just a little bit. It's very easy to add too much water right away, and then you got to add more pigment and to get it back down. So just doing like a half of a dip of your brush in the water, because you can always add more, but it takes a lot to remove it. You know what I mean? Okay, so I'll just paint that section and we're good to go. Now, shell pink is a semi-opaque paint color, which means it's not as transparent as some of the other colors. So it's definitely going to leave an interesting effect on the colors that we mix with it. Okay, so I'll come back to our Soul Shine, and I'm just going to add a little bit to that. Now, I didn't add a ton. I can always add more. Okay, so there's a little more in my brush, and we'll mix that in. And I'm going to start over here because, again, I'm trying to match this up so everything kind of goes in order. All right, so you can see this definitely changes Soul Shine quite a bit. It's not as orangey as maybe you might think, but it definitely changes the overall look of this color. And one thing I think you'll see, and this first color did a good job of illustrating that, is because Soul Shine is that semi-opaque color, it's going to make all of the other colors kind of semi-opaque as well. So I'm kind of using my shell pink to create a bunch of pastel representations of my palette colors. Okay, let's do another one. So the next color we've got is vermilion. So we'll pick up some of that. Again, add a little bit at a time. If it overpowers the color completely, you know, then you're mixing back and forth, back and forth. So I like to start with a little bit, and then if I need, I can add more. I'm gonna go with what I have on here, and look at that fun peachy color. This sure looks like Calypso coral to me, but not transparent. It's kind of, like I said, semi-opaque, semi-see-through. And we'll just do this little section like so, and there we go. Not perfect. That's okay. I'm rinsing my brush in my dirty water, and then I can clean it in my clean water before I go to the next color. All right, next up, we've got quinacridone red. So this I know is a weak color. I just happen to know that. So this one, I feel like I can load up my brush fairly well. And I might just add a teensy bit more. So I'm going to clean off my brush because it's mixed in with that opaque color. And then I will pick up some more of this and mix it in. Okay. There we go. Oh, I'm loving these colors. Aren't they fun? And when you mix colors like this, what's happening is it's giving your basic set of colors in any palette new life, because you're just showing different versions of them based on these mixtures. And it's a really great way to experiment with the colors that you can get. Okay, rinsed that off. Let's do our next color. This is Naphthol Red. This is definitely a stronger color than the last one, so I don't feel like I have to get a ton in here. Maybe just a little more. Okay, but I rinsed this brush off. I'm dabbing it in my paper towel, and then I'm just picking up the pigment because I don't want to put too much water in here. Many of you have asked about water control, and that is just a good habit to get into, is just being consistent, dabbing off excess water. You'll definitely get a feel for it once you paint more and more. I feel like when I first started, I just always had way too much water on my brush, and colors bled and mixed and all kinds of crazy things happened, and that was not the best. Okay, there's another section. Lisa says, we do not add water in the pen, always dip in water. I have water in here, but no, I generally don't use the water in here. And the reason is because I'm constantly squeezing water out of this. Like, look at that, to get it clean. And so the water constantly has to be refilled, and that's just annoying as all get out to me. So I don't like doing it that way. That's why I have water sitting on my table in jars. 2 jars, generally speaking, so that I can clean my brush in one and have clean water in the other. Dodie says, no matter which palette I use, I have a hard time cleaning the reds out of my brush. Yep. One thing you can do is take a little soap. They actually make brush cleaners, but you can just take like your bathroom soap that you use to wash your hands with, and just like put a teeny tiny bit, you know, not much, and then just mix in the palm of your hand, and then rinse it thoroughly. That will help get it off of your brush. I will say that a higher quality brush generally is easier to clean, and a lower quality brush is harder to clean. So for instance, obviously these are synthetic bristles. They're plastic bristles, and you can see they stain, first of all, and they are really hard to get completely clean. This is clean, you can see, because it's clean on my paper towel, but obviously the bristles are completely stained. But you'll get there. Try that soap though. Okay, next up, we've got Magenta Rose, the best color. All right, so I'm picking some of that up and putting it in here. And does anybody notice anything about what our colors are looking like here? Like any observations? And if you've taken my watercolor retreats, you can't answer because it's too easy. You all know the answer to this. But if you're not as well versed in watercolor, do you notice anything about the colors we're getting on our little wheel here? So that's something that's happening. Mary says they're analogous. Yeah, that's definitely true, but they were analogous before we started mixing them, to be fair. But that is a good guess. Okay, now I'm doing permanent rose. Anybody have a guess? Monochromatic. They're not monochromatic, but you're headed in the right direction. They're not monochromatic because we've used all these different colors, but what we've done is we've taken one color and unified all these different colors because we've mixed that color in. So what this is called is the mother method. So our mother in this case is shell pink, and we are mixing in shell pink all these other colors. And what happens is it unifies our palette so that these colors are all going to look nice together in a painting. So if we were to paint something special, which, spoiler alert, we're going to do after this, it's going to look nice. We don't have to worry about whether or not the colors will go because we've unified our colors with shell pink in this case. So it's kind of a fun little activity to do to see what you get first off with the mixes, and then to see how harmonious everything looks after you mix them together when you paint the colors together in one painting. I mean, besides just this circle. And what Dodie says, what a great way to come up with a color scheme for decorating. Just take your sketchbook to the paint store. That's true. You can for sure do this. I love the mother method. I think it's something that is worth coming back to over and over and over and over and over again. I really do like it. Duochrome hibiscus. This is kind of like gold. You gotta work it a little bit to get it activated because it's a metallic. It's got like mica in it to make it shimmery. And it also is a weak color, kind of like our yellow was in our last color mixing exercise. It's weak because it's very, very light and transparent. You can see that obviously on our little swatch sheet here, but it takes kind of a lot more of this color to get the color mixed up. And it's also going to be pretty similar to the original. You can see it's definitely a cooler color, but it's kind of a funky one, that duochrome. And as long as we have that right here, and I just happened, remember I had that scrap I showed you yesterday. Here's what it is going to look like. I don't have much on my brush now, but that shell pink definitely changes things. It's interesting to see how this will dry. It's definitely going to look different from the original. Just another fascinating thing. Oh, I'm going off the screen in the right. Oh, you mean like for my mixes? We'll bring them back in. Okay, next up is kind of this wild cobalt violet light. Or no, deep. This is the deep one, but I think it's lighter than, no, this is the light one, but it's deeper than the deep one. Never mind. Oh my gosh. Just trust what I am thinking, not what I'm saying. Okay. There's that section, and then we've got one final one to do. And then what we're going to do is take the leftovers from this and paint a little something. Okay, so my last color is that this color right here, which is cobalt violet deep, even though I think that's a misnomer. All right, now by the time we got over to this little well, it's kind of dried up, so I'm just going to put a little bit of water in there just so that we can get it to paint in our section. Oh, how fun is this? I love the look of this unified palette. I can go back in and write all the names in, and I will do that for you and photograph this so that you can see it again. But it's really a great, fun color scheme. I just so happen to have another one. Give me 1 second to find it in my sketchbook here, because I can't remember where it is. But I remember making it, I believe it was on a Friday night, which is probably going to make you giggle a little. Here we go. Yes. All right. So this one, I did Quinn Red as my mother. So I think I did a few different colors, but many of the same colors that we just did. And Quinn Red was the color that unified all of them. So you can see similar but different. So it's a fun exercise. I really encourage you to try this with different colors and definitely say, what if I put Viridian in all of the colors or in 12 of them? What would they look like? So it's really fun to do this. You learned the mother method in Dina's Watercolor Happy for Card Makers, right? Yes, there is a big section on it in that class. And if you are interested in color mixing, there's a lot of color mixing in that class called Watercolor Happy. It is a really great course, if I can just say so. And I actually still have a couple of boxes. I think I have 3 boxes left. So if anybody's interested, I definitely recommend it. And I definitely recommend getting the supplies because there's a lot of good ones, including several stencils. Okay, so now we've got this blank page next door to this. So let's do something with this. What I would like to do is tape this off. And I mentioned that one of the supplies you can use is Scotch tape. So I'm going to just literally take Scotch tape and tape the edges of my sketchbook. And what that's going to do is give me nice, clean edges. I'm just lining them up on the edge of this page. And then I have like kind of a nice little frame around, and it looks really nice. Now you can actually buy special tape for this, but actually I find Scotch tape is handy, readily available, and cheap. Okay. Sometimes tape of the same width, it's called like painter's tape. The good stuff is like $5 a roll. So I don't know how much a roll of Scotch tape is, but I'd say it's like $1 or $2. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to what's left in my palette over here, and we're going to paint something fun. We learned, or we practiced those brush strokes to make roses, so let's do that over here. All right, so I'm just going to pick up my paint. I added a little water to my brush, and I'm going to start. I start with really small strokes, curved strokes, kind of like the letter C, and then I get out going a little bigger. Notice I'm leaving some white empty space in between the strokes so that they're not all running right into each other. You can actually see the individual strokes, and then you can kind of decide if you're happy with it. And then you can go on to the next one. Deborah says, where do you go? I think, Deborah, in the description of this video, there's actually a link for it, but if not, if you drop me a message, I will gladly send it to you. Okay, I'm going to do the next one. I'm just going to do some C curves. Okay. And like that one kind of was wonky. I'm not going to worry about it. Just going to keep going. Add a little bit more water. I like when they're not all the exact same value or same amount of pigment. So a lighter one with more water is going to look nice. Okay, notice these are not perfect. We're just practicing some C curves. Okay, dipping my brush in water again, picking up another color, and I'm gonna go over here and just keep doing the same thing over and over. What I love about this is each rose, first of all, looks different, right? But I am practicing how much water I need on my brush, how hard I'm pressing on the bristles. I'm letting the color kind of do its own thing. I'm practicing leaving a little white space in here. I'm noticing that they're not all the same, and I'm okay with that because this is my sketchbook. It's paper. Paper doesn't bite. Sometimes it will give you a cut, so I guess it does. It can bite, but it's just paper. It's nothing. You are not painting fire or anything like that. You cannot do anything bad except enjoy the process. And this is sketchbook paper, so it's inexpensive. It's not even good paper. Ooh, somebody's getting yelled at upstairs. And there are only dogs and Andy, and he's the one yelling, so someone's in trouble. Okay, so there's another one. Let's dip in and pick up another color. I'm loving this process. I just think it's so fun. And all of these roses are going to literally match because we've unified the brush strokes. Okay. Ba-ba-ba. And you can see there's my tape. So it's keeping me from painting over it, but then when I remove it, it'll be nice, pretty edge. Okay, I think I skipped over this color, so let's do this one. And the nice thing about this is we don't have to worry about, you know, these colors looking good next to one another because they all match. I think I might have said that. Any questions while I'm doing this about anything we've done so far? I had too much water there, so I just got rid of it on my paper towel. Now we've got a couple of cards we need to make here in just a few minutes. I definitely encourage you to try some different colors and try different ones than I did tonight. You know, if you're going to unify, you know, do this exercise with unifying your colors, creating a color harmony, or the mother method, these are all the same thing. Try a different color than I did. I'll give you a hint. pick a kind of a wild color. Like I mentioned, Viridian, or like, what else? Ooh, that peacock. Ooh, just try one of the different colors. See what happens. What if? Ask that what if question. And then share your results in the Facebook group. And then you will inspire someone else to paint. So you can see when I run into the next rows, I just kind of stop painting. And because I did a half flower there, I'm going to do another one over here. Got a little too much water on my brush, so I brushed some of it off on my paper towel. I think one thing I noticed is that I didn't brush off my brush with too much water. When I was getting started in painting, I would just kind of leave whatever water was on there. I'd just leave it on my brush and go to town. And then I'd get mad because I'd have too much water, and then it would, it would go all over the place. And so if you get in the habit of getting rid of a little bit of that water, the excess right off the bat, then you will have less frustration. It's so easy to add more water, but too much water can be annoying. Dodie says, so do you start with one color and move along the palette, choosing colors next to each other, or pick them randomly? Honestly, it doesn't matter. And that's part of the fun, is you'll discover pretty quickly which colors are going to look good and which ones won't. Here's an example. If you pick vermilion, for instance, as your color, that's that orange color. Vermilion is definitely the complement of several of the purple shades, like mineral violet or the cobalt blue violet. So what happens when you mix those two together is you're going to get kind of a neutral color. And that neutral color is going to be like gray or brown. And while that's not bad, I mean, those are good colors, it might not be what you want. So for instance, another thing to consider is your color wheel a little bit. Oops. And if you're not sure what a complementary color is, you can make up your color wheel first. That was the exercise we did before this one. Okay, so you can see I'm just about done with this. I'm just going to kind of fill in these last little areas with my brush strokes. Again, none of these are perfect, but when you kind of put them all together, they look good. And I just kind of threw a little color over there. And that's kind of what I'm going to do right here, is I'm just sort of filling that in so I don't have any spots. Another thing you can do, we didn't put any leaves in here, and that's fine. Another thing you can do is take one of your colors. Honestly, it can be any of them. And I'm just going to spritz going across here a little bit. That was probably not the best color to choose from, but it is what it is. Live and learn, right? Okay. I'm setting aside my palette so I don't get it on here anywhere. Okay, now this is not dry at all, so I recommend to you let it dry before you do this part, but in the interest of time, I'm going to do it right now. So I'm going to carefully remove these. And the longer this tape sits on your page, the more likely it is to create problems, meaning it could tear. So you can see I'm pulling it straight back like this. Okay, and I'm going slowly. If it starts to tear, all you got to do is heat it with your heat gun, and that will kind of reactivate the adhesive in your tape, and it will be fine. Now you can reuse these pieces. So sometimes, depending on the surface you're working on, I have a spot where I can literally just stick my tape down. I will tell you though, Sometimes it's hard to pick them back up, so I like to put a little tab on the end to make it easier to pick up. Okay. So I'm just pulling all of these off. But at the end of the day, it's Scotch tape, so you can crinkle it up in a ball and it doesn't matter. But also remember, there's wet paint on here. It's plastic, so just be aware of that. All right, and then there is my coordinating page, and I think that looks really pretty. So I will write notes on this, knowing that these are shell pink mixes, so that when I come back to this, I will know what I did. Shell pink mixes. And then I'll write in the colors later. I'm not going to take the time to do it right now, but that allows me to see what I'm doing. I also love dating my pages. February 10th of 26. That way I can come back and see in March how much better a painter I am. Okay. Now, we've had a lot of fun so far. I feel like. I want to take, actually, I'm going to flip over my page and I want to practice doing some hearts. We did a lot of hearts last night. Let's come back to hearts again today and see how we're doing with them. Again, if you struggle with hearts, you can do circles. And if you would rather, you can trace some hearts. It's up to you. But I just want to practice a few hearts before I make our 2 cards for tonight. And then don't let me forget to show you the cards that I made from yesterday. I'm not pushing this page all the way down because it's still a little wet, but since we're practicing, I'm just going to pick up some paint from this palette because that's a perfect use for it. And I'm just going to practice painting a heart. Don't compare your heart paintings to my heart paintings, but I'm just practicing painting them. If you want a bunch of hearts that are the same size, you can draw some lines in with your ruler. If you want to practice what colors might look good with one another, you can do that, change up the color. So I'm just, like I said, I'm practicing hearts. I also think that a heart is a type of a flower, or it can be. So I'm going to paint this in. And there we go. Okay, and then I can draw in like a stem for this. All right, let's do another one. And those are going to touch a little bit, which is okay. So pretty. Let's get one that's a little bit different color, like this kind of orangey one. And there we go. So now I've got like 3 hearts together, and we can make those into a little bouquet. Okay, so your sketchbook is a great place to kind of work out your ideas, see if you like them, see what happens when you put 2 colors together. If they mix and create a nice color, if they mix and create something horrible, you'll know in your sketchbook. That way you have learned some things. I'm heating these up so I can get them dry because I want to practice turning a heart into a flower. So to do that, I'm going to grab my black micron pen and I'm just going to draw some stems in and then a little leaf. Like many of you, I suspect, I love to stamp because I can't draw. But I can draw like a little leaf like that. That's pretty basic and easy, right? Oh, that's kind of cute. Maybe I want to outline my heart. And I can decide if I like that or not. Maybe I want to try and do a looser outline like that. And I can say, ooh, that looks terrible. You know, whatever. Maybe I want to fill my heart with something like, in this case, polka dots or circles, kind of like what we did last night. Okay, so those are just some things I can practice in my sketchbook. And then I can say, oh, that's cute, or oh, dear Lord, I just ruined it. Okay, so that helps me get a feel for what is going to happen when I go to my paper. So let's do the real deal. So this is going to be our next card in our packet. Now you have the next card cardstock color is red. So whatever I do with this card, I want there to be some red in it. And I need to grab a piece of my watercolor paper. And I think for this one, I'm going to take out my Fluid 100 paper because this is the good stuff, so to speak. And I want to cut this to be 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And I like cutting this one in I like cutting this one to begin with so that I know how much space I'm working with. So I'm going to cut that at 3 3/4, and I believe this is 5 inches already. Yes. Okay. So with this piece, I want to take that design I just did with those hearts and kind of create something. And I'm going to refer back to an earlier sketchbook page. I actually showed this to you before. Let me find it quick. Okay, so I did this little exercise where I just went down the line with painting some hearts and some like this. And then I was like, oh, that's going to make a really cute card. Let's do that. Okay, so here we are. So I can, yes, Sherry, I will be glad to share that with you. What I did here is I went every other one, by the way. I went solid outline, but it doesn't matter. This is your card, so you can do whatever you want. Okay, so let's bring back in our heart and our palette. And remember I said it was a red card base, so I definitely want some red paint in here. So we're just gonna mix it right over the top here. And I'm gonna start kind of in the center. I wanna leave a little room for a sentiment down here. So I think I'm gonna do about 2 rows of hearts. Okay, oh, I like the first one, it's great. If you like the Mother Colors palette, how do you save the leftover paint? Just let it dry and you can come back to it. Write notes about what those colors were in your sketchbook so that if you want to make them again, once you either you used them all or you need more, that way you know how you created them. So I really enjoy keeping notes in my sketchbooks so that I can remember what I did. Okay, so I'm going to do an outline like this, and then a solid over here. Now, this paper is somewhat fancy. It's different than the paper in your sketchbook. That is wood pulp paper. This is cotton paper, and the difference is that the colors blend differently on this paper. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about it right now, but suffice to say it's like the chef's kiss of paper. Okay, so there is that. Let's bring in more of a pink color. Magenta rose. You can just really never go wrong with that color. Now notice I'm just making a mess on my palette. I'm not too worried about, blending colors or what's happening here. Not a big deal. I've got colors going over the top. I don't clean my plate off. I probably will at some point, you know, but for right now, I can just keep going over it and it's fine. And I'm not going to worry too much about it. Okay, actually, I did want to use that color again, so let's try that again and do I outline next? Let's see. Do this kind of cobalt violet light. Okay, I'll dip my water in here and do mainly water. Again, if hearts are tricky for you, just do circles for this project. Doesn't have to be hearts, no big deal. Well, I'm gonna just go down to this next color, which is my cobalt violet deep. This color is giving me problems. In your paint palette, it's giving me problems because it's taking forever to dry. Okay, I'll paint that right there. And then we've got room for one more. I'm gonna do my mineral violet because that's a good color too. And there we go. Okay, so now I just painted all of these hearts kind of nicely in a row. I did a pretty good job of keeping a fairly good straight line going across there. So yay. I will add my sentiment to the bottom of this and turn it into a card. All right, my next card, let me refer back to my notes. Oh, we're gonna do a little bouquet. Let me show you a completed card, but ours is gonna be a little different. I made this up this afternoon. Oh my gosh, isn't this just the stinking cutest thing ever? I think it is anyway. So I just made this with a little bit of gold on here. Of course, we've got the gold paint. The Sending Love is from, let's see, it's Prayers and Promises. This is a stamp set in the mini catalog right there. This is a really nice set, by the way. This is Carol Nordquist's $1 Million Stamp Set. I've known Carol for a really, really, really long time. Okay, so let's create a card with this. I want a 3 1/4 by 5 inch piece of paper for this. And where is the leftover piece that I cut this off of? Let's see how wide this is. Oh, look at that. It's 3 1/4. It's almost like I planned it like this. Okay, so what we're going to do here is kind of the same thing. I'm going to change up my colors just a touch. This is going to be on a crumb cake card base, so you can really do any colors that you want, which is why I chose a fairly neutral color like crumb cake, because it will just match with everything. So I did kind of pinks, oranges, and gold in here. I'm going to do more of like purples because I feel like we've been neglecting the purples a little. So let's do some purples. Oh, everything's mixing together. That's fine. Okay, so this is Mineral Violet, and all that I want to do is paint several hearts. But again, if you struggle with hearts, do circles. No one's going to know the teacher did hearts. They're not in class with you. It's all good. Okay, I like to do kind of like this is a relatively watery heart. Let's do a little bit more pigmented one. So this one's going to be darker. More pigment, less water. And I am using my medium brush. I could probably go down to my smaller brush for this, and that would be just fine. Okay, so there's a couple of hearts. Let's do that kind of pinky purple color. Oh, so cute. And you can leave these open. They don't have to be filled in. You can do whatever you want. It's your card. I'll do a little one up here. And I always think kind of like stamping an odd number is a good number. Let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 on here. So we can do either 5 or 7. I feel like probably 7 is the number to go with. I've got some of that cobalt blue violet, but I'm going to just pick up a little bit of that, maybe a little more of that mineral violet, mix it in, and then that is unifying my colors a little bit. See, we're learning things. Okay, and then I'm going to do another one over here, but I'm going to add some water to it on my palette, kind of in another little spot over here, so you can see it's definitely watery. And then I'm going to do just another somewhat watery mineral violet one down here, just to kind of even out things. Again, one of the reasons I picked this particular dish, by the way, is that when you've got all these little nubby things to scrape the edge of your brush off, and I think that's handy and helpful. Oh, and I didn't do gold on any of these. Darn it all. Oh well. We can add gold touches to this. Okay, so cute. I'm going to let those dry completely, and then we will turn them into stems just like this and make them into a card. Okay, so I'll finish this up later since it's already 8:37 and I still have a couple more things to show you. All right, so I'm going to set these aside and let them dry. And again, I love having my sketchbook as my guide. So when we start by practicing in the sketchbook, it kind of gives us a roadmap to come back to and refer back to later on to see what we did. Okay, so I'm going to show you the cards I made out of what we painted last night. All right, so first off, remember I did the orange one and I was like, whoa, it was too much, right? So then we die cut the detail on top in white. Well, I took that and painted a lighter value, or a much watery value of the same two colors. It was vermilion and there was a little bit of soul shine, that yellow color. And I did that over the top kind of unevenly, but real light. And then I layered these up, and that is the card I got. This card base is Timid Tiger. And this gold is actually gold thread. And I put a link in the description of this video because we used to have gold thread, but we don't anymore, and it makes me sad. This one we had kind of put together, but I finished putting it together. Okay, so there's that one. By the way, note the druzy embellishments in the center. So pretty. Oh my gosh, I love this one so much. So black card base. I embossed this little square here in black with the, I can't remember the name of this folder. It's the one with the hearts that goes with the Endless Love. If you recall, we punched this from the Bee Builder punch. And then I just took the hugs from Hugs and Kisses in Endless Love stamp set and put that on there. So fun. Okay. Remember this, I am thinking I might pull this heart or this bow off because I think it looks redonkulous at this point. I tried taking Timid Tiger ribbon and pulling it apart, but it turns out that the fray that's left behind is a totally different color than the Timid Tiger ribbon. It's kind of weird. So anyway, I might rethink that, but here's this one. I die cut this. I think I might have die cut these during the class last night, but that was those swirls we practiced painting a little bit. Hugs and Kisses on the tag, and Cutie Patootie. The card base on this is Melon Mambo. Last but not least, this was what was left off of this piece that I'd painted. It was just on that scrap, if you recall. And I die cut that out of this heart, and I put a little embossed piece, lined it with some white cardstock to kind of break up the color, and then I just stamped the sentiment Like I stamped it, stamped off, re-inked, stamped, stamped off, etc. And created the background and put one druzy dot on there. So fun. So all these will be in your PDF for you so you can take a look, and then I will show you tomorrow's creations, or tonight's creations tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a pre-recorded video. And yeah, okay, so watercolor for card makers. Watercolor happy for card makers. All right. So in that class, you get this glorious sketchbook. And can I just tell you, oh, so amazing. So in here, I got to pull up my camera a little bit because she's a big, this is a big sketchbook. But this class is in our sketchbook, or our class is in our sketchbook. So we start off by swatching colors. I have not swatched all the Stampin' Up! Colors, but I have room for them, and you get stencils to do this. You really get to know colors. So in this class, we actually use a set of paints, and hold on. It is this Mission Gold watercolor set. There's 36 colors. It comes with this plastic case, and you literally have 36 colors of the rainbow. We do a ton of color mixing in this class, but the first thing we always do with any class is swatch the colors. Then we start learning about each different color. So there's literally a page for every color in this book. And it's not something you do like boom, 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 unless you're a little bit crazy. You can. But these are all projects geared towards learning about each color. Here's a little color mixing activity with these colors, but you can see I've done all kinds of work. This is the kind of thing that you kind of come back to. You do some, come back to. So we marked off these pages because there's one for every single page. Oh, look, I still don't have 2 of them done, 3 of them. That's kind of funny. All right, then we learn about color mixing. We go into a pretty serious depth of color mixing. You learn a lot about color mixing. We do the mother method, which is what these are. A lot of color mixing. Then we go into learning about brush strokes. And this kit comes with a pretty big set of brushes. And we do a lot of learning about what each paintbrush does and how they work. So we practice a lot of stuff. Then we learn how to do some basic flowers. We learn how to kind of do, well, bunch of different things. We do some basic landscapes. There's some stencils. We do different things with the stencils and a few other things. And I think that's about, these are some other things in here. So it's a really great class. I don't have all the cards we make, but we make a whole bunch of cards in this class. This is just kind of an overview based on the sketchbook that we had. And you can see basically up to here is this class, and then there's just a few pages left. And the things that I'm painting back in here were not actually part of this class. They were after the fact. So that's why I'm not showing them to you, because I don't want you to be confused. Anyway, it is a thorough class. It was designed to be 6 weeks, but I think it got stretched into 8 weeks, and there was a lot that was in this class, and I highly recommend it to anybody who is really interested in learning more about watercolor and want a more in-depth look at it. Okay, let me see if there are any questions that I missed. So again, if the supplies aren't, or I'm sorry, if the link isn't in the description of this video, I can put it in there once I stop the live. But okay, any other questions, let me know. Let me just tell you that of the people who've taken it, and several are here tonight, a lot of very positive feedback from people. I think if you haven't figured out, this is kind of my passion. And so I do put a ton into this. And your box includes a whole bunch of stuff. The paint is not included, but there's a lot of stuff included in the box, like a lot. There's a bunch of stencils that we've created, and lots of different things like different types of paper, markers, brushes, like you get a whole big set of brushes. Trying to think of what else is in there. I think there's some embellishments, there's some designer series paper, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it's pretty good. All right. Okay, any other questions for tonight? Let me look at my little schedule. Tomorrow, we're going to do some more with brush strokes. We're also going to create some interesting backgrounds, and we're going to have another fun, like relaxing activity using our brush strokes. Similar to what we did earlier tonight, but totally different. Similar in concept, but totally different. So it was a good night tonight, I think. I had a good time. Someone asked about the schedule. I will have that posted tomorrow for you for sure. I'm sorry I don't have it tonight. Should we just do a little preview? I've got a couple previews. Like here's some hearts that I designed. I didn't like the outlines of them, but I did like the concept of this. This is just me playing in my sketchbook, by the way. This was, I think I showed you this in an earlier video. These were candles that were created just with a brush stroke. Maybe I'll talk more about that tomorrow too. Let me just mark this page so I remember. Okay. Kind of brush stroke practice. Ooh. Here is a little preview of our stencil. So we'll talk more about this coming up shortly. But that is one of the stencils in your box of supplies. And I'll show you this. This is all I will say about this, except that it's super fun. And when you see how I did this, you're going to be like, oh my gosh. All right. So I think that's where I'll leave you tonight. I hope you had a good time with me. Tomorrow's video will go live at 3 p.m. Central, so watch for that. I will post the link in the Facebook group and email it out to you probably around that time tomorrow. So have a lovely evening, friends. I hope you will practice either or both of our color mixing exercises and then share what you created and the colors you used in the Facebook group so other people can see and learn from your experimentations, and you can learn from others. And I can't wait to see what you come up with. Have a great evening, friends. We'll see you soon. Bye.